Abyss is not in-game content anymore. Let me explain. So, the way I see it, Abyss is kind of just a weaker version of Stygian, and also a less fun version of Stygian, because it forces you to play a full 3 chambers at a time. Whereas if we come over here, I actually have a clear time for the cactus now. I have 120-second clear time, basically on the edge. Legitimately, you're given 2 minutes to clear, you know, the dire challenge, and that's all you're given. So it's a lot more fun. You know, definitely, because I don't like Abyss. The way Abyss is set up, I don't like it. Now, with Stygian, it's nice, but it's not necessary. That's subjective. What is objective is the fact that Blessing of Abyssal Moon, just hydro-related reactions in general. So, like, Nevi would destroy this, right? Like, just a shockwave is released on the opponents. I think you all know where this is going, right? If we come over here, we go into Spiral Abyss, and then we simply go ahead and click onto floor 12. 75% electro charge and lunar charge damage. There are 75% buffs in here. Now, you might think, well, Stygian actually takes on buffs for Fearless mode. Yeah, it does. But Stygian's buff on Fearless mode, if we go ahead and go over there, Stygian's buff for Fearless mode is HP attack and defense 20%. Defense is useless because no good defense scalers are viable. I mean, Shielonin is, but like you're not gonna build her specifically to have 20% less defense, right? That's just it's just not, you know, gonna happen. And then, you know, max HP is pretty good. If, you know, Nefi is your character, you know, you get 20% max HP. That equates to a 7.5% damage bonus overall. Or not damage bonus, but just damage overall, right? Just specifically looking at my Nevi build, I did the math and everything. It's whatever. You know, my Nevi would get like 7% better, right? He gets 70% better. 75% damage bonus made my Mavwika hit from, you know, 1.8 million to 2.3, which is 500,000, which is about 30%, right? About 30% more damage that my Mavwika was able to do just for having the 75% damage bonus. So if we're talking, and that's, you know, Nevi, nearly the best case scenario. Maybe you argue Fiorina, best case scenario, because she's, you know, you put a ER Sands on her, she has less HP, but she has a high base HP. You know, you could argue that. But I say Fiorina's damage isn't high enough at this point to really look at that and consider it. And even if you did want to consider it, you know, if you really want to look at the true endgame content, it's Dire, right? I'm not going to judge characters on Dire because Dire is just a little too difficult, but you can beat it. Like, you can beat things with Dire. 120-second clear time. Look at this. I got Nevi clear time with the Nefa, Fiorina, Kazuha. It works, right? You can clear it without being a complete whale. So you can do it. And there's no buffs here. None at all. So, yeah. I'm going to simply say, you know, Stygian is basically replaced Abyss, right? And you might be wondering, like, well, Abyss hasn't changed. Why isn't it in-game content anymore? Well, because we have actual in-game content now. The thing is, with Abyss, it's always been way too easy ever since past 3.0, I would say. You know, if we're looking at, you know, 3.0, we had bosses that would just waste time, and that's what made it hard, right? We had the Weenut, we had, you know, the Ruined Serpent. Those bosses would just waste time, and that would be the hardest Abyss we've seen yet, because it's all time-based. Whereas this, they don't have to waste time. They don't. They just have the HP pool to stick with it, and they also have the actual boss mechanics to beat your butt. Like, if we go against the turtle, I can die easily. You can die easily against this turtle. This turtle has killed my Skirk so many times that I stopped farming it. I started farming the other, like, I started farming the Cactus Man because he was less threatening. Because I had a direct counter to him, and he doesn't really attack. He sort of more, you know, runs around and tries to, you know, not get zapped, right? He doesn't really attack, and he staggers you, right? He plays around just annoying the crap out of you. But you can, you know, once you work around his gimmick thing, you win, right? And another thing I can point out is that if you're going into Stygian, you're not using 2 characters. I'm going to quickly go ahead, and I'm just going to, I'll just quickly go Nevi, you know, and Nefa. And Nevi and Nefa, and I'll be able to show another reason why Abyss is just way too easy. So just quickly showcasing Nevi plus Nefa. Oh, would you look at that? These cards that give me buffs. Oh, 25% max HP. Well, that's better than Stygian's buff. So amazing. It is. It's genuinely so amazing. So beautiful. But, yeah, chat. I don't know if this should count necessarily as, difficult. If we can, just come in here and do this. Right? Like, we can just do this. And this isn't even, like, this isn't even, like, difficult to do. I just was simply doing things. I have 2 enemies left here. I mean, they're just going to end up, yeah. 1 more enemy left, and yeah, here we are. Yeah, this guy has not taken well. Yeah, I literally, I just came in here for like 10 seconds, and now I cleared it. I cleared it within 1:23 seconds, and like, I don't build my Nevi for solo, so his burst had an uptime issue, so did an Effa's. And like they just whoosh, they just used it. Cleared it within 1:23 seconds. You wanna know what you cannot do in Stygian? You can't take 2 characters into Stygian. You just can't. You can if you're utterly insane and willing to reset about 5,000 times. However, I did that first try, not intending to try and speed run it at all. I was just like, I'm gonna show you guys what happens when you put 2 characters into Stygian or into Abyss. Yeah, it did very, very well. And because again, in Abyss, you get 3 minutes for the entire chamber. For chamber 1, if you split it 1 minute 30 seconds in the first half, 1 minute 30 seconds in the second half, you've won. That's all you need to do. That brings me to my next point. This is really mid-game content. It really is. Because you don't need that many characters. Sure, it looks like you need that many characters, but that's just because you can use 2 teams. But in reality, you can use 2 characters here and 2 characters here. That's all you need, legitimately. All you need. Well, Chask is a little bit weird, but like if I were to grab like a couple other characters, like if I were to grab, I can't use Mevweek as my example or Skirk or something because you guys are just gonna say constellations, you know. But you guys understand what I mean, right? 2 characters, you know, it's all it takes, and then you have 2 other characters. And if you're struggling, guess what? You have 2 more character slots. You know what I could have done? Like, legitimately, what I could have done if I had Nevi and Anefa as my only 2 5-stars, right? Or my only 2 5-stars that I wanted to use in the first half, right? Chongyun and let's go Yanfei. You know how much easier that makes it? You want to know, like, Nevi gets a massive buff when you do that to him. Like, when you give Nevi, like, a huge buff by just adding these elements onto the team and, you know, applying with them and getting the reaction with them, you get a huge buff when you do that. So, and it's not like you might not have, like, 2 weird element 5-stars, right? Or 4 stars. You know, you could even add Ganyu to the team. Like, you legitimately, if you're using Nevi, you just use whatever, right? And you might be like, oh, well, it's designed for him. Well, yeah, but guess what? In Stygian, you have to use the characters that designed for the boss. Huh? What? No, yeah, in Stygian, you better be using the right character. Because if you aren't, you lose. You lose! Yeah. I think there's not really much else to say, right? Like, I've gone over everything and why Abyss just is not as difficult at all, right? It's not difficult. You don't need as many characters, and you kind of just beat it very easily. So I feel like at this point, it's mid-game content. It used to be endgame because it was the only thing at the end of the tunnel. But guess what? The miners dug further. The miners found, I wouldn't say diamonds, but, well, whatever. The miners found gold. They found Stygian, and it's very good, I would say. And I would say Abyss at this point is mid-game content. And I'm sorry if any of the new players or, you know, players who can't beat it are, you know, a little salty at me saying all this, but it's true. Abyss is too easy at this point. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.